Welcome, friends, to Aunt Debbie's Boutique. We finished up our series on Halloween decorations, and now we're moving on to Thanksgiving. Here are all the fabrics we're going to be using in all of our projects, and we're going to be using most of them in our project today. We're going to be making some wrong holiday. Some Thanksgiving placemats. They're going to be turkey themed, and I think you'll enjoy this. I have about 2 yards of all of these fabrics, except these last two here. I have 3 yards of those. And this is going to get us through all of our projects. I'll probably have a little bit left over, but I'm going to use the majority of all these that have 2 yards. I have 3 main Thanksgiving prints. These are all a set. I mean, the same fabric line. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, Timeless Treasures. And this was in my stash again, so it's several years old. But I've seen some really cute prints out there right now. So you shouldn't have any trouble finding them. And then we need 4 different fabrics in colors that complement, the turkeys. This fabric and this fabric. And then the black we just need as a base. We're also going to be using some scraps. This is part of the black, but scraps here for some of the pieces, and just need a light tan and a dark brown and a different green from that one. But all we're going to need is scraps on those. Okay. Now let's get set up for making our first placemat. Okay, this is what we're going to need for one placemat. We're going to need a top fabric, which I chose this one, and it is 14 inches this way, and I cut it the width of the fabric and then cut that in 2, so that gave me 2 placemats. So 14 inches of fabric, which is more than 1/3 of a yard, so you'll probably have to get a 1/2 yard if you're just making 2, but you can, however many you want to make, you can just add that many 14s together, but each one will make 2. So I have that fabric. Then I need a fabric that is going to be for our feathers on our turkey. We're going to make the red one this time. We have a yellow, orange, and a green also. And I'm making 2 placemats of each color of feathers. Then we need some sort of fabric to go on the back of our applique. And I chose this plain black because I didn't think it would show through too much. You can use whatever you want, but all 3 of these are cut 14 inches by 1/2 of the width of your fabric. Then you'll also need a backing for your placemat. That's different from this black. We're going to have quite a few layers on this one. It's going to use more fabric than a lot of our projects, but I chose this turkey print to go on the back, and I made it, I think, 15 or 16 inches wide by the width of the fabric, because I wanted a little extra stick out, because sometimes when you quilt, things shrink. And the same with the batting. So, 15 to to 16 inches wide, or length, I guess it is, height, and the width of your fabric, which is about 21 inches on most fabrics. And then we need these 4 pieces for some of our appliques. I'm also continuing to use, this is some black iron-on tape for patching jeans and things like that. We're going to make our facial features for our turkey out of that. And we're going to use some used dryer sheets. I talk about this a lot, that how you can use them, but I've never demonstrated it, so I'm going to demonstrate it this time. And then I'm going to introduce you to a new product. It's ODA 505 temporary adhesive for fabrics. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this. It really works good, but if you put too much on, it can gum up your needles, and if you overspray it, if you're not careful, you'll get overspray on things in your sewing room. And so I don't use it a whole lot, but in this case, it's going to come in real handy. So we're going to use it. Then we're also going to need some templates, which I've drawn up, and as you can see, it's pretty messy. I worked on it quite a while and then made it symmetrical. And these are the pieces for our turkey. So I will have these in my Etsy shop. It may be a week or 2 after you see this video that they're up. I'm running about 2 weeks behind in getting my patterns up there. So I've got 4 of the 6 from the Halloween already up, and as soon as I get those other 2 Halloween ones, this will be the very next one. Okay, let's start laying out our fabric. Well, I tell you what, let's do our pieces for our applique first. So what we're going to do, I've gone ahead to save time and drawn, this one is for your napkin ring, so it's not part of the applique. We'll save that till later. But I've gone ahead and traced my pattern pieces on here. And on this one, I've marked these 2 places. We're going to leave it open there, and it'll all make sense later. We're going to sew the complete of that, sew the complete of this, and we're going to leave the top of the hat open when we sew them. And so what we want to do is place right sides together. Dryer sheets don't really have a right and a wrong side, but place a dryer sheet on the right side of your fabric. And then I'm going to go stitch all the way around here. I'm going to also place this one right here. Take another dryer sheet for this one. See if all of them are the same size. Yeah, they appear to be. We're going to sew completely all the way around on this one. And we're going to leave an opening at the bottom of this one. And this one just is barely big enough, but that's okay because at the bottom it doesn't have to match completely on this one. So I'm going to do it like this. Okay, let's go to the sewing machine and sew these up. Okay, there were a couple things I forgot to mention. It's like I've said before, I turn on the camera and I can't remember my name and I can't sew a straight seam. There's just something about that camera that causes me to not remember things. We also are going to have a napkin for each one of these. And I am not going to go over how to make the napkins because we did that in the Halloween placemats, but I will link that below. But basically it's just an 18-inch square that we double hemmed. We folded over a 1/4 inch and then a 1/4 inch again. I've already made all of my napkins for my placemats, so I did that up ahead of time just to save us some time. And also we are going to need 2 strips of fabric that are 2.5 inches wide by the width of your fabric. And this is going to be for our binding on our placemat. And I chose to use the same fabric that is on the back. You can use whatever coordinates best with your fabric and whatever you choose. Okay, I've cut all these out. I mean, I've stitched them all. And I want to trim them to about 1/4 inch. And at my corners, I want to clip them. And in these corners, I'm going to give it a slit right up to the stitching, but we don't want to cut through the stitching. Then I'm going to turn it over, and I find a seam ripper is the best way to do this. We want to cut just through the dryer sheet. Well, we don't need to on this one because we didn't sew the top of it. We will have to on the ones that we didn't. So oh, I didn't clip all these corners either. See what I mean about turning on the camera and forgetting everything? Sorry about that. These are very, very easy to turn with this dryer sheet. And this way we have a nice little hem turned under so we don't have to do any raw edge stitching. We want to pick out our corners really good so we have nice sharp points. I again find a seam ripper easiest to do that because it has a handle on it. But if you're afraid of accidentally cutting your fabric, I'd recommend you just use a straight pin. Okay, now I want to iron my hat. It's the turkey's hat. Now, when we have rounded edges, we need to either slit about 1/4 inch all the way around or do what I like to do, just trim close with a pinking shear. Now, between these 2 dots, I'm not going to trim anything. And you'll see why when we get to this step. We're going to end up tucking this under something, is why. Now see, I hope you can see about how close I get. We don't want to cut our stitching at all, but we want to get close enough that it's kind of like putting a slit every 1/4 of an inch. But this will make a curved seam lay nice and smooth after you've turned it. Now, on this, well, we don't need on this one either because we have an opening. And I have a pesky fly in here. Please pardon him. Okay, this is the body of our turkey. Once again, we're going to use the pinking shears, except right here at these points, I'm going to cut right up next to the fabric. And this one we'll have to use the seam ripper to open up the dryer sheet to turn it. Okay, on our last piece, all I've done is clip the 4 corners, and we're going to slit it and turn it inside out. And then we have to do one more step on this because this is our turkey's hat buckle, his pilgrim hat. Now I'm going to take my ruler and mark 3/8 inch from all 4 sides with something that's erasable. And I'm going to go stitch that. Okay, now that I've stitched that, I just want to cut a big X here in the middle. I'll get it started with my seam ripper, but I don't want to lose control and cut through my thread. So you're going to go right up to the thread. And then we're going to turn all 4 pieces back so what we have resembles a belt buckle or a hat buckle. Now we're going to set all these pieces aside and we're going to concentrate on our placemat. The first thing I want to do is our turkey on the back side of either this piece or our top. It doesn't matter, just wherever you think it'll show up the best. I want to make sure I've got it centered. So I'm gonna fold my piece in half and give it a little crease and my turkey has a crease. And then I'm just going to eyeball the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to pin it in place. Okay, there's our turkey pattern traced out. Now, with right sides together, and it is a good idea to iron these nice and neat before you start, because the key to this pattern is going to be keeping everything real smooth. At least iron this one. The back one isn't going to matter that much. So with right sides together, I'm going to line this up. It doesn't have to be perfect. This piece of black fabric is not going to show anywhere unless it kind of peeks out around the edges. Now we want to pin it really, really good in place. And we're going to take it over to the sewing machine and stitch around our pattern. Okay, now it's time for the fun part. Let's take all our pins out. And then we're going to take our pinking shears up, not pinking shears. And again, you're going to have to make a lot of little slits if you use regular scissors, but that's okay. And we're going to cut out the inside this time, not the outside. So inside, get this started. I'm going to cut all the way around. And then I'm going to come back and clip any corners I've got. Once again, this is how close I'm cutting it. Okay, when you've cut out the center, keep this piece. This is two big pieces of fabric that are really nice, and we're going to use this for pot holders later. I'm going to go around to each of these points and cut them a little bit closer because We want nice sharp points when we turn this right side out. Okay, I'm also right here at the hat going to clip right into the corners. Now we're just going to turn this right side out so the black goes to the back. And we want to go around and poke out all our corners first. We'll come back and pick them out a little bit better. Now I'm going to pick out and iron as I go all the way around the edge of this. Okay, now that we've got that done, I want to lay down my fabric for my feathers. Again, this is real important to keep this one nice and smooth. So iron it. You can even put a little starch on it if you want. Once again, the sizes of these don't have to match. In the end, we're going to trim this all down to 13 by 20. Okay, let's pin this real good on here. I believe this method is called a reverse applique. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is, the terminology of it. And once again, I'm going to have 4 different colors in the placemats. I mean, each placemat's going to be different. There'll be 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 greens, 2 oranges. Now let's take our turkey pieces here. And remember, we left this open. It's so we could tuck it up there. And if we'd sewn it shut, it might not have quite come to the point we needed it to. So And then down here, we're going to tuck in the body of our turkey to right those 2 points that we marked. Make sure I'm getting this centered. And then this is the face and the neck of the turkey. And I try to center it so these points here are right at the body. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn this at an angle facing me so I can make sure I get everything straight. You may want to measure it. I'm an eyeballer, so. Okay, now I want to go around and I want to pin all these points down real good because we're going to top stitch all around this and all around our turkey. And if this slides around while you're stitching, you're not going to end up with a very pretty placemat in the end. Before we stitch that down, we want it quilted through all the layers. So I'm going to take my backing fabric, and here's where I'm going to use this 501 temporary adhesive. Once I have it where I want it, I just squirt a little bit. Don't overspray and don't squirt too much. But it's going to hold it in place, so you don't need a whole lot of pins to do that. You don't really need any pins. It works really good if it just doesn't get on everything or gum up your needle. Now then, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, let's see if we have a directional print. No, that's a toss print, so it can go either way. Because if it was directional, we'd want to make sure we had it facing the right direction. Now, I did not use this spray to tack down this border part because I didn't trust myself to be able to put it right in the areas without it bleeding over. And I want to make sure I have everything really centered well for when we get ready to trim it. I think that's pretty good. Now I'm going to peel this back. Spray a little adhesive. And then give it a dry iron. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch all the way around. I'm going to edge stitch real close to the edge all the way around here. Then I'll come back and do all the pieces of the turkey. Okay, let's give it another good steam. Now we're going to draw in our feathers so we can stitch on those, and I'm going to use an erasable pen. Chalk would show up better, but chalk is so hard to get out that I'm not going to use chalk. And you can kind of roughly see how I drew them in here. So I'm just going to sketch them in. Still a little hot, so it's not holding my line real good. Now I'm going to go over there and stitch on all these lines. Now I'm going to iron this again just to get rid of all those lines I drew so they don't show up. Okay, the next step we're going to put our belt, or not our belt buckle, our hat buckle on, and our facial features. So let's see what happened to my, I'm going to draw a little oval eye. And I'll cut two out at the same time, and then I'll clip a little bitty triangle nose. See how these look. Okay, these were just iron-on patches. Now I'm going to stitch down my belt buckle. We want the bottom of it to, it's not a belt buckle, it's a hat buckle. The bottom of it to line up with our brim here, and then we want to center it on each side of the hat. So I'm going to go stitch that down real quick. One thing I almost forgot about is we need to take our 4-inch square here, put right sides together, and we're going to stitch that down, and then we will turn it to make a napkin ring. Now we're going to lay this aside until we have this all trimmed up. So I'm taking out the rest of my pins, and I'm going to trim it to 13 inches high by 20 inches this direction. And I'm going to do that by visually lining this bottom fabric here up on one of my lines on my cutting board. Then, ooh, I moved it. Let's hope I didn't move it too much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to trim it just a little bit more because I moved it. I'm sitting at a funny angle here. Okay, then I'm going to measure 13 inches up. And that's going to fall on this line right here. Now I want to try to center right down the center of this on this line right here, and then I'm going to measure 10 inches to either side of that, and that's going to be right here. I'll turn it around now so it'd be easier for me. Now all we have left to do is place our napkin ring and our binding. Let me get our... Now I want to put this napkin ring, we're going to fold it with the raw edges together and the seam on the inside. And I want to place it the same place I've placed the others. Here's the yellow turkey feathers. So I want to make sure that I put it at the same spot. I think the napkin is supposed to go on your left. So that's why I put it there. And this is optional. If you want to fold your napkin and not do it like this is fine. But I like to have my napkin weighted down so it doesn't get messed up as easy. Okay, now for our binding, we're going to take our 2.5 inch strips, cut off your selvages, put them right sides together at right angles, and I'm going to draw a line diagonally from corner to corner here, and I'm going to stitch on that line so that it opens up and is in a straight line. Iron the seam that we put in there, and by doing a diagonal seam like that, it cuts down on the bulk. If you've done a seam straight across there, when you go to fold it so many times, it gets real bulky in there, and this kind of distributes the bulk out. Now I'm going to iron it in half all the way down. Now that we have our binding ready, there's two different ways we could attach it. We can put it on the front, stitch it on the front, then turn it around to the back and stitch it. I do that on a quilt because I hand stitch it and it's a blind stitch. Rudy, be quiet please. And I don't want it to show, but I don't hand stitch my pot holders, my placemats or my pot holders usually. So I'm going to stitch this to the back, and then when it wraps around to the front, I'm going to top stitch it here, and it should fall right along the seam. Top stitch the back too. If it doesn't, if it gets off, who looks at the back of a pot holder, a placemat anyway. So we're going to line it up, raw edges together, and I'm going to start about 4 inches in here, leave a little tail here, and I'm going to stitch 1/4 of an inch all the way till I get to this end. I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch away and just back it off. Then I'm going to turn this at a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to turn it back so that this fold is parallel there and the raw edge is here. And I'm going to start 1/4 of an inch. As soon as I have all 4 colors done, I'll add it to the end of this video, a picture of it, providing I haven't released the video by then. Just know there'll be an orange and a green one. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you will like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. If there's something you want to see me sew, leave that comment as well. If my camera angles aren't good, let me know that too. Remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord. Thank you.